Hello, everyone. So this is the last presentation of the summit. I hope it'll be a great one, but it's a bit of a tough act to follow after all the amazing speakers we've been listening to. Let me quickly introduce our panelists. We have Gauthier here, who is an interior designer who has been pushing boundaries with his foray into virtual reality, and Najee from Rotana, who has actively been exploring innovations in design in his projects. Marcus Tait from Intercontinental couldn't be here today, but we'll hear from him via video later. So, we're going to have a conversation about design and innovation. Let's jump straight to it. So, let me start with Najee. What are the three biggest design innovations you've seen in hospitality in recent years that you think are here to stay?
Okay, first, thank you, Bench, for organizing this and for having on the same panel FF&E supplier and a designer facing an operator. So thank you for this. It's going to be tough.
It should have been two operators.
So in terms of innovation, I think, prior to the pandemic, of course, and during and eventually after the pandemic, innovation has always been something that is a challenge and a concern for us, and of course an opportunity. And we see it on all levels of a hotel development. So for us, it doesn't stop at the rooms or at the public spaces or even in the, let's say, in the restaurants. It's everywhere. We are experiencing innovation, or we are implementing innovation in our back of house, as we have seen and heard from other panelists and other panels, in back of house, in food handling, in waste management, in a lot of areas that are not visible to the guest, but that affect the guest experience ultimately. So going back to the guest, a seamless check-in is an innovation that you don't know about, but that makes your life easy when you check into our hotels. In-room facilities that are making your stay memorable for sure, but also adapted to your likings. So recently, I'm sure everybody watches Netflix. If you want to watch your best episode of, Breaking Bad, or your kids want to watch Tintin, you need your own Netflix. This is an innovation that might be a simple thing, but for a guest, it's relevant, and it makes sense. And a lot of other stuff related to hygiene, for example, during the pandemic, and this is the fact, we have been shouting to our owners and our designers about innovations that we want to implement, but we were not either heard because of budget constraints or because of design parameters. Suddenly, the pandemic happens, and everybody runs to implement these innovations. So, again, it's going to be part of the discussion, but we see it as an implementation throughout the envelope of the project that we are working on, and not only in guest-facing areas. Hello.
And Gauthier, what do you say? Because you as a designer, you're obviously, you give the clients that experience that the operators work behind the scenes. So what are some things that you've seen that you think are here to stay?
Well, we have been innovating in different ways. Firstly, we innovated in the way we present our projects. So having projects in the four corners of the planet and traveling all around all the times, we thought about a solution to, instead of traveling to the projects, having our clients and business partners traveling into our projects. So we've been developing virtual reality tools in the last few years to invite our clients into the concepts and to improve the way we can explain our ideas and our techniques. Now, those tools have been very exciting also for other departments within the hospitality, because actually it was also used by developers. So, for example, the developers would use our presentations to pitch a property to a potential investor, or a commercial team would ask us to integrate into this virtual tour some commercial aspect, for example, a booking system, or you could maybe buy an artwork, and then the marketing departments have reached out to us to design digital content. So we are designing hotels, we are designing guest experiences, and actually now what we see is that our job doesn't stop when the property is built. Our job continues because we continue to design guest experiences within the digital era, you know, and I think this is really one of the biggest innovations, and we have a booth there where most of you have been able to see the tools that we are developing.
So one major trend, actually trend is the wrong word, but one major shift that has happened over the last couple of years is that guests have become much more fluid. A business hotel used to be strictly a business hotel. A resort was a resort. And now you have both travelers staying in both destinations. So there's a lot more fluidity across the board. But do you think this happens in certain properties more than others, or what is your take on this?
You want me to start?
You can start.
Okay. So I was thinking about this, and in my opinion, having worked on projects since now, I don't know, 20 years on hotel projects, what we used to see is a lot of focus on aesthetics, on designing the nicest hotel, the biggest lobby, the highest whatever, looking at fabrics, colors, what is the trend in finishes. Today, the focus is on the guests and the guest needs and the guest. So what would my guest want when they check into my hotel and stay for 3 nights, let's say? Do they want to work? Do they want to meet people? Do they want to enjoy a nice dinner with family? Are they worried about their safety and their hygiene? Are they into co-working, let's say, a mentality? Are they here on business? I didn't hear this before from our clients or even us. It was always about what is the nicest thing that we're going to put forward in our hotel in Dubai or Riyadh. Or now the focus is on the guest. How would the guest react if they enter our lobby and sit in our restaurant? Should the restaurant be seamless with the lobby experience, and should it, let's say, speak the same language so that you don't feel that you're sitting in an all-day dining and then you're moving into the lobby, and that you can use it throughout the day? Because at the end of the day, ultimately, you're trying to build spaces that are both viable and economically, profitable. So this is what we are trying to achieve these days, this fluidity, as you mentioned.
And from your side?
Look, I find it quite strange, actually, that we are still talking in nights, you know? Mm. So the operators are still selling the rooms by night, although actually we are spending much more time outside the room, and actually they should sell the rooms by day, by the experience you have, you know? Now, the rooms are still very important. This is your little nest after your day of work or your day of holidays. But at the end, we spend so much time in the public areas. And I mean, look at all the time we spend here in the lobbies, working, networking. And so those areas needs to be very flexible, you know. And this is the request we have from most of the operators, is to be able to offer as many options and functions as we can in as many areas as we can. So you want to eat in the lobby and you want to work in the all-day dining, you know. Of course, you don't want to sleep in the lobby, but you still want to work in your room, but actually it is not really the place where you prefer to work. And when we did some tours in some properties and during the day with housekeeping, you will see that most of the laptops of the people are not positioned on the desk. They're all on the bed, you know. People don't work on the desks. So there is a lot of discussion of how to innovate. Do we really need the TV or not in the rooms? I think it can go in, sorry, there is a little fly. It can go in every direction. What I think it's interesting here is that we have some big group hoteliers that have so many brands, you know. It's on them as well to decide and to catch the essence of what brand will offer what type of service. So now we are a lot into virtual reality, but myself, personally, I love to be welcomed by someone, you know. So I'm not too much in favor of a easy check-in where nobody's there to welcome me. Although I understand the necessity of having a brand where actually if you come at 3 o'clock at night from the airport, you don't want to have all this mess of checking in. So it's really depending on what is your client, what is your guest, trying to really understand what he needs, and then we design according to that. So I think this is really important to know who are we talking to. You know?
On this subject, actually I wrote a list that relates to this. So people think that when we talk innovations, and sorry, I'm going to read because probably some people would like to hear this, so I'm going to pull it all out, and then we're going to talk hospitality, as you said. So people think that we're going to talk NFT, OpenSea, crypto, metaverse, digital, cloud, Bitcoin, blockchain, AI, IoT, SAS, apps, startups. This is not hospitality. This is maybe something that supports hospitality, but this is not hospitality. We're not about robotics. We are not about virtual, remote. We're not about all this, but at the same time, we use all these facilities to energize our hotels and our facilities. But again, and I think I agree with you 100%, innovation in our industry, because it's about people, it's about experiences, it's about what you eat, what you feel, what you smell, what you taste, how you sleep, how you wake up, how you take your shower. Innovation and technology should be around all that, and we have seen a lot of our partners, whether suppliers or designers, where we work on innovations in bathroom designs, and even in the shower lighting design. But again, the actual concern is not whether it's LED or it has to function in a way that makes me feel something when I'm taking a shower. You know, if I have the best technology and then my guest has to go back to university to understand how to use it, it's not relevant. And the fact that they are there for a couple of days or a couple of nights and they are not there to experience our technology. They are not in a showroom. They are in a hotel. They are there to either do business or meet family or spend time with family. So we have to always remember that innovation is very important, but it has to circle around one main component, which is the guest.
I don't agree totally with...
It's okay.
That's
good.
okay.
You said
We
to
can-
agree with me. No,
We can agree
yes.
to disagree. So
That's good.
I was not saying that I was against technology at all, because we are investing so much into virtual reality nowadays that it would be contradictory with what we are doing, you know. So I really believe that the virtual world is it's fantastic. Everything that is being done now, you were talking about metaverse. Definitely, it's a subject that everybody wants to understand a bit more. Now, what we do at GG&Grace is that we have been developing virtual projects for the last few years, you know, and it's very exciting because you can develop so many. It's very conceptual, you know? So it doesn't abide to the laws of architecture. Like you can have a flying counter. You can have it is really conceptual, and this is where the creative minds will win, you know. I mean, I see that one of our videos displaying, well, this is the type of presentations we are doing right now, some design tools that virtual presentations can offer. We can change the colors of the walls, we can open and close the curtains, we can switch on, switch off the light. This is an innovative way to present
This
projects.
is very good.
Okay. This is not yet the guest experience, but that's the experience of us developing the project. You know?
No, this is something we need, for example, to present to our owners. A lot of our, let's say, developers might not be familiar with drawings and plans and specifications, but they would be very much into something like this. If you immerse them into something like that, and they understand what the product that they are getting, that's definitely something that we would agree with together. But if you tell me that I have the option to be in the Maldives or wearing a mask and looking at this bedroom, I prefer the Maldives.
No, of course.
absolutely. I think all of us do. So speaking of the Maldives, now moving on, what is the most exciting conversion project that you've been a part of, and what made it special? Were there any interesting innovations, or was it the location? I mean, if you could just share a bit more about working on a conversion project. You can start this time, Gauthier.
Well, I would say to stay into the innovation part, because that's the theme of the panel, is that we've done a renovation recently of a project in Doha, and nobody could travel. So how to design a hotel when we cannot even go and visit the property? And mainly when we developed the mock-up room with the local team, how can we bring the operator to go and sign off the mock-up room? So we did a virtual presentation of this room, and actually it was so easy to understand and so easy to share as well, because the whole operator, as they have been starting to share the link by WhatsApp, and the whole group has been discovering this mock-up room, virtual mock-up room, and we got an approval quite easily without even traveling to to Doha. So this was really a turning point when I discovered, I mean, I realized that actually those virtual tools are really efficient, you know. So it's less travel, it is more sustainable. I mean, it checks all the boxes, you know. It is quicker, it's less expensive. You don't need to bring the whole team from Dubai and London, and you know, like all those travels are a big investments for the investor. And we as designer, we prefer to keep the budget to spend into nice accessories at the end of the project, you know, than in first class tickets, you see. So that was, I think, one of the most interesting renovation, I would say, of the last few months, you know.
And what about you, Najee? Are there any?
Yes, of course. I mean, for, not a specific project, but usually for us, a good conversion is a conversion that unlocks potential in a property that was either forgotten throughout the years or that was missed out. So in a recent project, no need to mention, but in a recent project, after, let's say, surveying the property, after looking at all the components, we realized that actually by reshuffling all the public spaces, by looking at how to move things around, with the designers, of course, we can unlock a potential in the property that was not seen or that was not appreciated, and it works. And in many cases, because we're talking about a conversion or a renovation project, in many cases throughout the years, I call them mushrooms. The project starts having mushrooms like attached to it that actually affect its viability. If you go back to the roots and you relook at cleaning up the property and relooking at the basics of that hotel, you can unlock a lot of potential, and you can, in addition to implementing innovations, you can unlock a lot of areas that could be revenue generating again. And that's where the aim is at the end of the day.
So speaking of public areas, in a new build property, what would you say are the most important design elements?
I would say the arrival experience is key in any project. That's the first thing the client will see. And it starts actually before even arriving on the property. It's already the booking system, is the dream part of it, you know, when you plan your trip, you know. So, but when you arrive at the property, it's the first thing, it's the touch, you know, I mean the touch with the eyes, the touch with the welcoming part. So do we have how is the lounge looking? I mean, do we have a reception, the concierge? I mean, I think this is really what's important. It's the first few seconds that will give you the whole experience of the property, you know? So if you want something very efficient, something very quick, you know, some people, they like to be super quick to their room, you know. Some others will tend to spend more time in the lobby discovering the latest artworks, or, you know, like before getting into their room or the restaurants, you know. So I think the very first minutes are very important, and that's what we do when we design properties. We really tend to approach this like a cinematographic approach, you know. So we want to see what are the steps, you know, like the first step, the second step, you know, like to see what do you see, what's happening, what do I feel, what do I smell, you know. This is very important.
But I agree with you. So I mean, like you said, it's that dreaminess before you get there, and then you need that dream to continue when you arrive. I once had the opposite experience, and it was, you know, not what you want as a traveler. But what about you, Najee? What would you say about public spaces?
Again, you know, I disagree with the statement that says the hotel is home away from home. In fact, I believe that in every property, and it doesn't have to be the same element, but in every property, depending on the location, depending if it's a resort or a city hotel, if it's made for business people or for families, it has to have that wow factor, whether in the lobby, in public spaces, whether in the offerings in the restaurants, or in the actual pool facilities. And again, the wow factor is something that you will remember. At the end of the day, do you remember the color of the sofa in your bedroom today? I don't think so, but I'm sure you remember. Don't say yes, please.
I work in FHS, so I should remember.
Yeah. So again, it's the things that people remember, and now, obviously, with all the social media aspects, it's the things that people will take pictures of. It's the things that people will tag and it's difficult you know, I don't think there's one specific answer, because how many hotels are around the world? How many designers have designed rooms? At the end of the day, the room is a bathroom, a bed, a TV, a desk. So how much can you innovate? How many permutations can you do? And this is the actual challenge that we face, operators and designers, in making this like a different experience, you know?
We have recently opened a resort in Seychelles, and we had with the operator many meetings, and actually what was quite new is that we always we communicate with the design and construction departments, usually, you know. And in this case, we had also a direct communication with the marketing team, because they asked us what are the Instagrammable hotspots, you know. And we had to really explain towards the journey of the property, what do we anticipate as being that key visual that will be the one that the people will share, you know. So when you arrive at the property, you have this wow element. I mean, we really had to divide all the journey by these Instagrammable hotspots, and I thought it was very interesting to see how much now the marketing is also involved in directly with the designers, because at the end, I mean, we all know that the influencers, people sharing is free advertising, you know, and this is our role as designers to anticipate, you know. And sometimes it works, and sometimes we are surprised that actually that super artwork that we felt was really amazing is not really the element that people take as a picture. It will be something else that was much more simple, maybe just a hammock between two palm trees, and that becomes, so it doesn't mean it's very expensive, but it just needs to be done with care and experience, you know.
So the last question I have before we wrap up and watch Marcus's video is, what has been your favorite innovation that you've seen with regards to sustainability?
Wow, okay. The favorite one?
Or not favorite, but something that you thought, wow, you know, this makes me feel good about what I'm doing.
The planet. Okay. You know, on the sustainability subject, the problem is, and I think this is something that we should work on as consultants, operators, and suppliers and contractors. The problem is that everybody goes to the owner saying, to do a project, a hotel project, is going to cost X. To do a sustainable project is going to cost X plus 10. And this is the mistake. I think you should present the project as a sustainable project that's going to cost you X. And this is where you start from the beginning with the owner, working on something that is inherently we say sustainable, and we don't build a hotel that doesn't respect the environment, doesn't respect proper materials, and we end up us catching up by doing proper bottling or it's not that. It's from the starting point. Again, what we implement, we have worked on a lot of initiatives, and I was happy to hear that one of the IHG panelists yesterday was talking about an initiative that we started before. It's good Marcus is not here. So, and it was about the food waste management. And this is something that we started and we contracted for all our hotels in the UAE. Of course, there's other initiatives, but I think anything that thinks about sustainability on a company level is relevant. You know, all these small energy saving are good, but I always like to push for company-wide initiatives that can push sustainability to a different level, even if it's different owners, even if it's different cities. This is where you make a difference.
Look, we love to have to be responsible and also to have a social impact. So we have just signed a new project in Benin in West Africa. And I'm quite proud of this because what we've done, and arriving in Benin, the first thing we did is actually going and visit local organizations to see how, if we could develop a project together, because we know that this project will take 2-3 years, minimum. And actually, this is the time that would be needed to develop something together with the local people. So the idea would be that we can develop maybe a local artists, area where people can manufacture some artworks that we can use for the property, and then maybe that they can use it for other projects later on, We had some projects where, for example, we go, we pour our concrete, we do our resorts, everybody's happy, and then we leave, and, honestly, we all feel guilty about that. Already we are flying around every week, so, definitely it's something that we feel impacted by. So I think the social impact as well is very important for us. And as designers, we have less, I mean, we can't say that, yeah, we are creating employment, you know, in the area. We are coming just for a few months, and what we can do is selecting nice recycled materials.
Yes.
We can come up with this, but we are counting on the investors as well. For example, this resort in Seychelles, it was done with the eco label that is called BREEAM. It's very interesting. It studies the way that you manage your waste removal, the construction. You know, it's very interesting. But it is less on the interior design part. It's mainly a burden, I would say, on the architects and the structural engineers. We as designers, we have less impact. So we try to find another way to have a positive impact. Yeah.
One recent project that we did in Jordan, the owner actually decided to buy a piece of land outside the city, build solar panels, feed the grid, the national grid of electricity, and this is how we managed to offset the electricity consumption that we have in the hotel. And this was an owner initiative. So in many cases, it's about all these big impact initiatives.
Well, thank you so much for
The
sharing.
reason I'm jumping in is because Jonathan would like to ask a question. So,
Okay. Well, we've just wrapped up. Go ahead.
Sorry, I wasn't too sure if you were going to open it up to the audience or not. But I think one of the big problems of real estate generally is the utilization rate. So if you look at office buildings, we're probably running at 20% utilization rate. It's even worse now than it was before because people are going into the offices like roughly 2.5 days a week, or less than that probably, and it used to be 4.7. I'm looking at research in London specifically on this. And so you've got the problems with offices. Hotels, probably not that much better. I mean, we're utilizing the rooms during the night. We're average occupancy 65%. So there's a lot of poor utilization of real estate, which isn't incredibly sustainable. So one of the problems, I think, in the hospitality industry, of course, is the bed. You've got this big bed, so you can't use it for anything else. So what do you do to change that around so you can make it into that more co-working, co-living space? So there's an example of this, and that's, I was interviewing Zoku the other day, Hans Meyer, and, you know, very clever designs when he opened up his first hotel in Amsterdam in 2016, where the ladder sort of folds into the wall, the bed's up in the mezzanine level, the shutters up above there. His focus is the desk, not the bed. So it's interesting, and he runs at 92% occupancy. The utilization rate of that property is, you know, huge compared to a typical hotel. And then you look at this sort of space, you know, how often is this space used?
Yes.
You know, it's even worse. So there needs to be a real, you know, reconfiguration of how we use space, I think, going forward as well.
I think the challenge also that we see, I mean, I'm an architect by profession. The challenge I see sometimes with the operator and the owner is that there is a certain mindset that we don't do this. But the pandemic pushed us and our owners to think differently and say, why don't we do this? You know, it's like, for example, the boardroom is only used for events, but the boardroom can be used for so many things. The meeting rooms, now there's all these podcasters. You can use your meeting rooms throughout the week for podcasts, for so many other functions that usually as a hotel you say, no, we don't do this. Your restaurant can be used, again, in so many ways. But I agree with your point about the rooms, because this is 80% of your inventory, or of your asset, basically. And this is where I've seen some initiatives where they actually, during the pandemic, changed the rooms into offices, private offices. But I think the challenge is always, how long do you want to stay in the room, you know, during the day? Of course, flexibility is very important. But if you have the choice of working in the room or down in a good, nice space, public space, which one would you choose? Of course, different people choose different options. But I think, yes, the question should be asked, how to use the facilities in a way that utilizes it for the most period of day.
I like your example of the bed because it's super extreme. I mean, I use the example of the TV, or I could use the example of the minibar. It's still debatable. Like, people will say, oh, TV, no, of course I need one, or a minibar, no, yes, we do. But the bed, of course, this is definitely the element that we all expect to see as soon as we arrive in the room. So this is typically, it's a good subject. I mean, this is, of course, the question is not do we need a bed or not. It's like, what are we doing with the square meter that it occupies during the day, you know? Yeah. So it's definitely interesting for us. I think what's important is to see how much the operators are integrating the designers into their reflection when they develop their standards, you know. Because they are coming with standards that are already 2 years old, you know, and they try to reinvent themselves all the time, and it's already 2 years old when it comes on the market. So, and the thing is that when you sign a property with an investor, you have shown them a program that is based on another standard that is probably another 2 or 3 or 4 years older. So at the end, when you develop and you open the property, it's a property that is based on a program that is, what, 6 years old or something? So this it's not at all in line with an industry that should be much more reactive.
But that's why recently we have decided not to design all of our outlets, for example. Work with independents closer to the opening date. So because how can you decide that Mexican is the next best thing? Or Peruvian, or French restaurants? It's very critical, and you design the property 4 or 5 years before construction, then 3 years construction, then you open, Peruvian is gone, and you end up with a Peruvian restaurant. But I wanted to go back to the room. I've seen something in France, because houses are very small in France, and I wanted to say that there is a cultural element to using the rooms as well. In France, there's an app where parents can spend a couple of hours in the afternoon outside of their small house if they would like to relax, discuss matters because the houses are small. And these guys, so you can book the room, as you said, on a day use from 5 to 7. And you can utilize it to maybe sleep, some of them. And in the article, they say it's not about the bad ideas that people would have. It's sometimes to relax, to watch TV, to chat about something that that you don't want your kids to hear. So there is a cultural element that enters into the equation that we need to factor in when we are thinking about innovating in a room, in a bedroom.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Great question, and thank you so much for being here today. And we'll wrap up with Marcus's video.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'll take this one.
Well done.
Thank you.
Yet, but at least we get to see you online and have a small conversation. So let me jump straight into it. So what I'm curious about is, what are the 3 biggest design innovations that you've seen in hospitality in recent years that you think are here to stay?
Hi Tini, thanks for the time, and again, sorry I can't be there, but great to be able to talk to you today. Look, for IHG, the term leisure travel is very real and very purposeful now. So once upon a time it was leisure and all business, and today it's leisure and business. So that has a significant impact on hotels, and so designs today, especially in the lobby area, Holiday Inn, Open Lobby, Crown Plaza, the Plaza Lobby, a significant change there. The other application that we've seen is obviously the World Cafe. So that's the cafe where everybody meets and everything sort of occurs, right? So it's either have a coffee, meet and do some business, and that World Cafe principle and the restaurants and bar principle, there you go, is really important. Integrated technology. And then finally, sustainable tourism. Certainly for IHG Journey to Tomorrow, the 10-year plan that we have is essential for our properties. And so I think that really fits into a box what we're trying to achieve, and that is have open lobbies, have technology that integrates and enable you to work or leisure, and then finally be able to do all that in a sustainable fashion.
So speaking of sustainability, what do you think are the most important factors that impact sustainability in a hotel?
Look, IHG has been at the leading edge in tourism anyhow, of sustainability for some time now. For decades we've worked with Green Engage, which is predominantly about energy reduction, and we've recently matured that to Journey to Tomorrow, which is really aligned with the UN goals for net zero carbon reduction. So for us, Journey to Tomorrow really talks about operating hotels and new build hotels. So I don't think you can, I think as an organisation or as a leading hospitality and tourism provider, you have to be able to settle into what do I need to do from an operational basis and what do I need to do from a new hotel basis. And I think both those things have a different need. So it'd be very hard to say that need's more important than that need, because we think it has to be a bottom-up and a top-down approach team.
All right, and that brings me directly to my next question. So speaking of new builds, as an operator, what are the design elements in public areas or rooms that you think are most important?
Yeah, so from a new build perspective for us, it'll always, and it's only more emphasised now, but it'll always be critical that the owner, the asset, fit the brand, and that fits the market. So essential to us is making sure that we have the right brand in the right market, attached to the right owner, and there's a natural market to serve that. Then it comes down to the usability and the flow. And that's the usability of the area, and then the flow of the rooms, how they feel to our customers, the consumer feedback that we get, and then finally, it's doing that in a sustainable manner. And that just doesn't mean from a long-term sustainable practice. That also means from a procurement practice. How do we procure in a sustainable way? Yeah.
All right. And what is the most exciting intercontinental conversion project that you've been a part of? And what made it so special? So are there any innovations or anything in particular that made it stand out for you?
Great question. You're hitting on my favourite topic, which is luxury and lifestyle and hotels, right? Because they're exciting, and to be frank, you know, they're passions of the soul, the luxury project. Intercontinental being one of the largest luxury brands in the world today by room count. Our approach to conversion for Intercontinental or conversion for luxury is a protective approach. So we have to be working with the right owner, we have to be working with the right asset, and we all have to have an aligned point of view on where we're going. IHG listened to their owners, and their owners clearly said to us, what we want is a conversion luxury brand, and that's why we brought out Vignette. Vignette has a unique proposition in that we're able to take hotels that are iconic in their stature and bring them into our portfolio and trade them under a luxury environment and continue to really reward and recognise the legacy of that hotel or whatever it might be. Our ambition is to have 100 Vignette hotels in the near future. I'm excited to work on our first one, which I can't talk about just at the moment.
We are the big news on this occasion, but I guess you'll keep us in suspense now.
I will at the moment. Maybe there's news coming, hopefully in the near future, but I'm really excited by what we're doing with this brand, and I think what we're going to do is really bring alive some really interesting properties that have got some really great legacy around them. Tini, I'm looking forward to that.
Great, thank you so much, Marcus, for your time, and again, we're sorry to have missed you here, and have a great day ahead.
Thanks, Tini. Look forward. Bye.
Bye.